Okay, so
Yeah.
just imagine this, all right? The sun is just absolutely beating down on you.
Uh-huh.
And it's like you're standing, under one of those tanning lamps, but like all day,
Oh, wow.
every day, for months on end.
Yeah.
That's basically what it's like for a lot of you out there in India and Pakistan.
Right.
I mean, we're talking UV index levels that are hitting 12, 14. Like, those are numbers you'd expect to see on Mars,
Yeah.
not, in Delhi or Karachi.
Right.
So the question is this. With a sun that intense, is sunscreen really just another, beauty product?
Yeah.
Or is it something that you absolutely need for your health? I mean, like, truly need.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? And it's a question that a lot of people are asking and frankly need an answer to.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do in this deep dive.
Yes, we are.
We are tackling this question head on.
Head on.
We have gone through reports, data expert opinions,
Oh.
all of it to give you a clear understanding of why sun protection isn't just something that's recommended. It is essential for you living in India and Pakistan.
Exactly.
We'll break down that intense UV radiation that you face every day and explain the science behind how sunscreen actually works to protect your skin.
The hows and the why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll also look at the realities of skin cancer in the region,
Yes.
weigh the pros and cons of using sunscreen.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right. And equip you with the knowledge to choose and use sun protection effectively
Like a pro.
alongside other vital strategies.
Exactly.
So basically,
Yeah.
our mission here
Our mission
is to cut through all the noise out there
yes.
and provide you with information that you can actually use,
Actionable information.
rooted in solid evidence,
Solid evidence.
so you can make the best choices for your well-being.
For your health.
Exactly.
All right, so let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
Just how powerful is this sun that you're dealing with every single day? I mean, I think we all know it's strong, but how strong are we talking?
Right. So to understand that, you need to know about the UV index.
The UV index.
Think of it like it's a weather forecast.
Yeah.
But instead of telling you if it's going to rain,
Yeah.
it's telling you how strong the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation is.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. And it ranges from 0,
0.
which is a low risk,
Okay.
all the way up to 11 plus,
11 plus.
which is extreme risk.
Like off the chart.
Basically, yeah, it means there's a really high chance of you damaging your skin and your eyes.
Oh, wow. Okay, so 11 plus is like
That's serious.
the danger zone.
Yeah, you need to be really careful.
Okay, so now let's bring it home.
Okay.
This isn't just some, theoretical number on a scale.
Right.
We're talking about real cities that you live in.
Exactly.
So, for example, let's say you're in Delhi.
So,
You are looking at very high to extreme UV levels for a huge part of the year.
yeah,
We're talking March through October.
big chunk of the year.
And in July and August, forget about it.
Yeah.
You are hitting that extreme level of 12.
Wow.
And you know what? It's not just Delhi.
Right.
Think about Chennai down south.
Yeah.
They actually see an even more intense UV index,
Really?
hitting a staggering 14 in April and staying in that very high to extreme zone for most of the year as well.
Wow. Okay.
And here's the thing that I think is important for you.
Uh-huh.
Even when it feels cooler,
Yeah.
like in January and December,
Okay.
a lot of cities are still in that moderate to high range on the UV index.
So it's not just a summer problem.
Exactly. It's something you have to think about year round.
Right. And it's not just India either.
Exactly. This is important for everyone listening in Pakistan, too.
Right. If you're living in Karachi, you're facing very high to extreme UV radiation from March to October as well.
It's like a mirror image almost.
Pretty much. And it peaks at 12 in July and August, too.
Wow.
Yeah. Lahore and Rawalpindi have similar patterns with a lot of high UV exposure during those warmer months.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating when you compare this to the rest of the world.
Right.
You think of places like Australia,
Yeah.
the tropics,
Yeah.
places that are famous for their strong sun.
Right.
India and Pakistan are right there with them,
Right there with them.
often exceeding what's considered normal midday summer sunlight in the tropics,
Which is already pretty intense.
which is around a UV index of 10
And you're seeing 12, 14.
regularly. Yeah.
So that 14 that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
that's not just some random scary number.
Right.
It's a real thing that happens frequently,
Yeah,
and it has very real risks for you.
exactly. And that sustained exposure to such high levels of UV radiation,
Yeah.
it means that there is a serious potential for sun damage to your skin.
It's not something to take lightly.
Not at all. You really need to factor it into your daily life.
So we know the sun is incredibly strong where you live.
Yeah.
But now let's get to the practical stuff.
Okay.
How does this cream that we rub on our skin actually protect us? How does sunscreen work?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So sunscreen mainly uses two strategies to protect your skin.
Okay.
Some of the ingredients in sunscreen act like tiny shields.
Tiny shields.
Yeah, they basically scatter and reflect the harmful UV radiation away from your skin's surface.
Like bouncing it right back?
Yeah, like a mirror almost.
Interesting.
And then other ingredients in sunscreen work by absorbing the UV radiation,
Okay.
and then they convert it into heat.
Heat.
Yeah, but it's a less damaging kind of heat, and then that heat is released from your skin.
Oh, so it's kind of like a two-pronged approach.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then there's this term that we see all the time on sunscreen bottles.
Yeah.
Broad spectrum.
Right.
What does that actually mean?
So broad spectrum protection is super important because it means that the sunscreen is protecting you from both UVA and UVB rays.
Okay. So there's two types of rays.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Think of UVB rays as the sunburn rays.
The sunburn rays.
Yeah, those are the ones that cause that immediate pain and damage to the surface of your skin. Yeah. And then UVA rays, those are the sneaky ones.
Sneaky.
Yeah, they penetrate deeper into your skin.
Oh.
And they're the main cause of premature aging.
So wrinkles and age spots.
Exactly, all that stuff. And importantly, both UVA and UVB radiation can cause skin cancer.
So you need protection from both.
You need both, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why broad spectrum is so important.
Got it. And then there's SPF.
SPF.
Sun protection factor.
Right.
This is the number everyone looks at when they're buying sunscreen.
It's the big one.
Right, but what does it actually tell us?
So SPF mainly tells you how well the sunscreen protects you from UVB rays.
Okay, just UVB.
Yeah, for example, an SPF of 30 will block about 97% of UVB radiation.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It is, yeah.
But I guess what's important is what SPF doesn't tell you.
Exactly, and that's something a lot of people miss.
Right.
So SPF doesn't tell you how much UVA protection you're getting.
Okay, so you could have a high SPF,
Yeah,
but still be vulnerable to UVA damage.
exactly.
That's important to know.
It is. And also, SPF doesn't tell you how long you can stay in the sun without burning.
Right, because that depends on a bunch of things.
It does, yeah, like your skin type and how strong the UV radiation is that day.
So it's not a free pass to bake in the sun?
No, definitely not.
So basically what you're saying is just putting on a low SPF once in the morning
Yeah,
and thinking you're good to go all day?
that's a recipe for disaster.
That's not going to cut it.
Not at all.
Especially not with the kind of sun you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Okay, so sunscreen is not a total shield.
It's not, no.
It reduces the amount of UV radiation hitting your skin,
Significantly, yeah.
but it doesn't block everything.
Right.
So using it correctly is super important.
Super important.
Putting on enough.
Enough, yeah.
Reapplying it.
Regularly, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially after you've been swimming or sweating.
Right. Anything that might take it off.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's been a lot of research on how effective sunscreen is.
Oh, yeah. Tons.
Does it really protect you?
Yes. The evidence is very clear on that. There was a landmark study done in Australia.
Oh, Australia, okay.
It's a randomized controlled trial.
Fancy.
Yeah, and they found that people who use sunscreen regularly had a 40% lower risk of developing squamous cell carcinoma.
Squamous cell carcinoma?
It's a type of skin cancer,
Okay.
a pretty common one.
40%, that's huge.
It is, yeah, and even years later, follow-up studies showed that the people who use sunscreen every day also had a lower risk of melanoma.
Melanoma, and that's the more dangerous one.
Right, it's the one you really want to avoid.
Okay, so sunscreen can actually help prevent skin cancer.
It can, yeah, and while some studies on melanoma might have different results,
Right.
the overall consensus from all the major health organizations
Yeah.
is that sunscreen plays a huge role in reducing your risk of skin cancer.
So it's worth it.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we know sunscreen is a crucial tool for protecting us from sun damage and lowering the risk of skin cancer.
Right.
But what's the situation in India and Pakistan?
Yeah.
How big of a problem is skin cancer there?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
So right now, the reported rates of skin cancer in India are actually lower than in Western countries.
Oh, that's good.
It is.
Yeah.
But when you consider how many people live in India,
Yeah, it's a huge population.
it is the actual number of skin cancer cases is still pretty high.
Oh, wow. So even though the rates are lower
Yeah.
because the population is so big,
Yeah,
the number of people affected is still significant.
it is. And what's concerning is that skin cancer rates in India are rising.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's not. And researchers think it could be because of things like changes in lifestyle,
Okay.
people spending more time outdoors,
Right.
and even the use of skin lightening products.
Oh, right, because those can make your skin more sensitive.
Exactly. They can increase your risk of sun damage.
And are there any differences within India?
Yes, there are actually.
Okay.
Studies have shown that the rates of skin cancer are higher in the northern and northeastern regions of India.
Interesting. So why is that?
Well, Researchers are still looking into it.
Yep.
But some possible factors are exposure to arsenic in some areas
Oh, wow.
and higher levels of UVB radiation in the Northeast.
So there are regional variations.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that non-melanoma skin cancers are more common than melanoma in India.
Non-melanoma skin cancers.
Right, things like basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma.
So those are less dangerous than melanoma.
Generally, yeah, they're usually easier to treat,
Yeah, okay.
but they can still be a problem.
Right, of course.
Now, when it comes to Pakistan,
Yeah.
it's harder to get a clear picture.
Because there's not as much data available.
Exactly. There aren't really comprehensive national cancer registries in Pakistan.
So it's hard to track the numbers.
Yeah. But the studies that we do have suggest that skin cancer is a significant problem in some parts of the country.
Okay.
And just like in India, non-melanoma skin cancers seem to be more common than melanoma in Pakistan as well.
That's consistent.
It is. And this lack of data really highlights how important it is to do more research in the region.
Yeah, we need more information to really understand the scope of the problem.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about skin tone.
All right.
Most people in India and Pakistan have darker skin tones.
Right.
So how does the natural melanin in your skin affect how much protection you need?
That's a great question, and it's one that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
So most people in India, Pakistan fall into skin types 3 to 6 on the Fitzpatrick scale.
The Fitzpatrick scale?
Yeah, it's basically a system that dermatologists use to classify skin types.
Okay.
Based on how your skin reacts to the sun.
So like how easily you burn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it ranges from type 1, which is very fair skin,
Okay.
to type 6, which is very dark skin.
Right.
Now, having more melanin in your skin does give you some natural protection against UV radiation.
So it's like a built-in sunscreen.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
Okay, cool.
But, and this is really important to understand, this protection isn't perfect.
Oh, okay.
So while darker skin might not burn as easily as lighter skin,
Yeah.
it's still vulnerable to UVA damage.
And UVA damage is the one that causes aging.
Right? Wrinkles, age spots, sagging skin, all that stuff.
Not good.
And more importantly, people with darker skin can still get skin cancer.
Really?
Yes. And often it's not diagnosed until later stages.
Oh, that's scary.
It is, yeah, which can unfortunately make it harder to treat.
So the myth that people with darker skin don't need sunscreen?
That's completely false.
Dangerous myth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the natural SPF that melanin provides in darker skin is estimated to be around SPF 13.
SPF 13.
Yeah, and that's way lower than the recommended SPF of 30 or higher for adequate protection in the kind of sun you have in India and Pakistan.
So relying just on your natural melanin.
It's not enough,
Not enough.
especially not in that kind of environment.
Okay, so sunscreen is important for everyone, regardless of skin tone.
Absolutely everyone.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
There are some concerns about sunscreen.
Right.
So let's talk about the pros and cons.
Hey, let's do it.
Okay, so first the pros.
Okay, so sunscreen provides really good protection against sunburn.
Which is important because sunburn means your skin cells are getting damaged.
Exactly. It's a sign of DNA damage.
So preventing sunburn is a good thing.
Definitely. And sunscreen also helps prevent premature aging.
So you can keep that youthful glow for longer.
Exactly. And as we've discussed, it helps reduce your risk of skin cancer.
Which is a big one.
Huge. And for people with darker skin tones, it can also help prevent and manage hyperpigmentation.
Hyperpigmentation.
Yeah, things like melasma and dark spots.
Well, it can help even out your skin tone.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are the pros.
Those are the good things.
What about the cons?
Okay, so one concern that people have is about the absorption of chemicals from sunscreen into the body.
Right. You hear about that a lot.
Yeah, and it's a valid concern. Some studies have suggested that certain chemical ingredients in sunscreen can be absorbed through the skin,
Okay.
and they might mess with the endocrine system over a long period of time.
So hormones and stuff.
Yeah, but it's important to note that more research is needed to fully understand the long-term effects of this absorption.
So it's not a settled issue.
Not yet.
Okay.
Now, mineral sunscreens, which use zinc oxide and titanium dioxide,
Right, the physical ones.
yeah, those are generally considered safer when it comes to absorption.
Because they just sit on top of the skin.
Exactly. They don't really get absorbed.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then another potential drawback is allergic reactions or skin irritation.
Right, some people are sensitive to certain ingredients.
Exactly. Things like chemical filters, fragrances, preservatives.
Yeah, this can be irritating.
So if you have sensitive skin, it's a good idea to choose hypoallergenic sunscreens.
Or mineral-based ones.
Yeah, and always do a patch test before you slather it all over your face.
Right, just to make sure you're not allergic.
Exactly.
And then there's the environmental impact.
Right, people are becoming more aware of that.
Yeah, especially the damage to coral reefs.
Yeah, and that's a valid concern. There are certain chemicals in sunscreen, like oxybenzone and octinoxate,
Okay.
that have been shown to damage coral reefs.
Really?
Yeah, they can cause bleaching and other problems,
So if you're swimming in the ocean,
especially around coral reefs.
yeah, you should choose a reef-safe sunscreen.
Definitely mineral sunscreens are usually a good bet for that.
Okay, good to know. And then finally, there's the vitamin D question.
Right, the big one.
Do you get enough vitamin D if you're wearing sunscreen all the time?
Yeah, a lot of people worry about that.
Yeah.
But studies have shown that in most cases, regular sunscreen use doesn't actually have a big impact on vitamin D levels.
Really?
Yeah, most people don't apply enough sunscreen, or they don't apply it consistently enough to completely block out all UV radiation.
Oh, so you still get some sun exposure.
You do, yeah. And given all the risks of excessive sun exposure,
Right. Skin cancer, aging, all that stuff.
it's generally better to get your vitamin D from food or supplements.
Than to skip the sunscreen.
Exactly.
Okay, so weighing all of that.
Yeah.
What's the bottom line? Is sunscreen really a necessity for people in India and Pakistan?
Absolutely it is.
Yep.
All the major health organizations, all the dermatologists, they all agree. Regular use of a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher is a must for everyone living in India and Pakistan.
Everyone.
Everyone,
Right.
no matter your skin tone.
So it's not just a good idea, it's like a fundamental part of staying healthy.
It really is, especially in that environment.
Okay.
You've got that intense UV radiation.
Yeah.
The risks go beyond just skin cancer.
Right. Aging hyperpigmentation.
Exactly. And skin cancer rates are rising.
So it's really important to take sun protection seriously.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so sunscreen needs to be part of your daily routine.
Whenever you're outdoors.
Yeah.
And what about babies?
So for babies under 6 months, the most important thing is to keep them in the shade.
Okay, out of the direct sun.
Yeah, and dress them in protective clothing.
Long sleeves hats?
Exactly. And if you do need to use sunscreen on them, just use a little bit on small areas of exposed skin.
Okay.
And always talk to your pediatrician first.
Right. Always good to get expert advice.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we know sunscreen is important.
But how do we choose the right one? There are so many options out there.
Right. It can be overwhelming.
So what should we be looking for?
So first, you want to make sure the sunscreen has an SPF of 30 or higher.
30 or higher.
That's going to block about 97% of UVB rays.
Okay.
And while higher SPFs do offer a bit more protection,
Yeah.
it's more important to apply it correctly.
Than to just chase the highest number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you want to make sure the sunscreen is broad spectrum,
Broad spectrum.
which means it protects you from both UVA and UVB rays.
Right. We talked about that.
Yeah. So look for the term broad spectrum on the label or a UVA protection symbol.
Okay.
And if you're going to be sweating or swimming,
Yeah.
choose a water-resistant formula
Water resistant?
and reapply it as directed on the packaging.
Okay, so SPF 30 or higher broad spectrum water
And
resistant.
those are the key things to look for.
Got it. And then we talked about mineral versus chemical sunscreens.
Right.
Can you break that down a little bit more?
Yeah, so mineral sunscreens use physical blockers like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide.
Okay.
And they basically create a physical barrier on your skin that blocks the UV rays.
Like a shield.
Exactly. And they're generally pretty gentle on the skin.
So good for sensitive skin,
Yeah, and they're also less likely to be absorbed into the skin.
which is good if you're worried about that.
Yeah, and they're also a good choice if you're concerned about the environment, especially coral reefs.
Right, reef safe.
Exactly.
Okay, and then what about chemical sunscreens?
So chemical sunscreens use organic compounds that absorb UV radiation,
Okay.
and then they convert it into heat.
Heat again.
Yeah, and then that heat is released from your skin.
Okay.
And these tend to be lighter in texture,
Okay.
and they often feel more cosmetically elegant.
Right, they blend in better.
Yeah, they're less likely to leave a white cast on your skin.
Oh, okay, so it really depends on your personal preference.
Yeah, and your skin type and what you're looking for in a sunscreen.
Are there any specific recommendations based on skin type?
Yeah, there are some general guidelines that can be helpful.
Okay.
So if you have oily or acne-prone skin,
Okay.
you want to look for lightweight, non-comedogenic formulas,
Non-comedogenic.
which means they won't clog your pores.
Uh-huh.
So things like gels or fluids with an SPF of 30 to 50.
Okay.
And mineral options with zinc oxide can be really good for that.
Okay.
Now, if you have dry or sensitive skin,
Okay.
go for moisturizing, cream-based sunscreens.
Okay.
Again, SPF 30 to 50.
Got it.
Preferably mineral-based and fragrance-free.
Okay.
Those are usually gentler on sensitive skin.
And if you have normal skin?
Then you have a lot of options.
Okay.
A broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 to 50,
Yeah.
and whatever texture you prefer should work well.
Okay.
And then for people with darker skin tones,
Yeah.
the key is to choose a broad-spectrum sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher.
Okay.
That's formulated to avoid leaving a white cast.
Right, because that can be a problem with some sunscreens.
Yeah, so a lot of the newer chemical sunscreens and tinted mineral sunscreens are good options.
Okay, good to know.
So yeah, there are a lot of choices out there.
There are, but hopefully this gives you a starting point.
Yeah, definitely. And remember, sunscreen is just one part of the equation.
Right. It's not the only thing you need to do to protect yourself from the sun.
Exactly.
So what else can we do?
So sunscreen is like the foundation of your sun protection strategy.
Okay, the base layer.
Yeah, and then you want to add other sun-safe behaviors on top of that.
It's like what?
So first, try to seek shade whenever possible.
Especially during the hottest part of the day?
Exactly. Between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., the sun is at its strongest.
Okay.
And then wearing protective clothing can make a huge difference.
It's like long sleeves and pants.
Yeah, and tightly woven fabrics, those offer better protection.
Okay.
And look for clothing with a UPF rating.
UPF, what's that?
It stands for ultraviolet protection factor.
Okay.
So it's like SPF, but for clothes.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then a wide-brimmed hat is essential.
To protect your face and neck.
Yeah, and your ears.
Right.
And don't forget sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
Make sure they block both UVA and UVB rays.
So they're not just fashion accessories.
Right, they need to actually protect your eyes.
Right.
And then be mindful of reflective surfaces.
Reflective surfaces.
Yeah, things like water, snow, sand.
Oh, okay.
Those can actually increase your UV exposure.
Wow. So even if you're in the shade.
Yeah, you can still get burned if you're near a reflective surface.
Okay, that's good to know.
So yeah, sunscreen plus all these other habits.
That's the winning combination.
It is, yeah. It gives you the best protection.
Okay, so the big takeaway here.
Yeah.
For you living in India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Sunscreen is not just a trend.
It's not a fad.
It's not something you do just because everyone else is doing it.
Right.
It's about protecting your health.
Exactly.
It's about taking care of yourself.
And preventing serious problems down the road.
Right.
Like skin cancer, premature aging, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's for everyone.
Everyone.
No matter your skin tone.
So make sunscreen a non-negotiable part of your daily routine.
Yeah, if you're going outside, put on sunscreen.
It's that simple.
It is, yeah.
Choose a broad-spectrum sunscreen.
With an SPF of 30 or higher.
Apply it generously to all exposed skin.
And reapply it regularly.
Especially after sweating or swimming.
And combine that with those other sun-safe habits.
Seeking shade, wearing protective clothing.
Exactly.
And that's how you stay protected.
Exactly.
So as you go about your day-to-day,
Yeah.
think about how you can incorporate what we've talked about into your life.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some changes you can make.
Maybe some habits you can improve.
Yeah, this isn't just about vanity.
Right.
It's about taking care of your health.
It's an investment in your future.
Exactly. And if you want to learn more,
Yeah.
check out the UV index forecast for your city.
There are apps for that.
Yeah, super easy.
And there are tons of resources online from reputable health organizations.
About sunscreen and sun safety.
Yeah. So do your research, empower yourself with knowledge.
Knowledge is power.
And that's the first step towards better skin health for you.
Awesome. Thanks for all the great information.
No problem. Happy to help.
And thanks to all of you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
Stay safe out there.
And wear sunscreen.
Always.